Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with a pick a pile reading. So this is your opportunity for you to choose whichever deck you feel drawn to, and then go check out the timestamp inside of the description box to go find where your reading starts. So this is going to be pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. And I'll see you in your reading. Enjoy. Hello, pile number 1. Thank you so much for joining me. Now let's see what these cards have in store for you today. So I'm just going to be using tarot cards, I believe, this time. I don't know if I want to get too much into everything. I have shuffled, but let's try one more time. So what does pile number 1 need to hear at this time? We have the Explorer of Swords, the Six of Cups reverse, Death, the Explorer of Cups, the Nine of Wands. I feel like these cards have been kind of chasing me around. And the Child of Wands. And then I kind of feel like I need one more, the Seven of Wands. Okay. All right, let's begin. So the very first card I got, the Explorer of Swords. Now, to me, this is a card that really represents the igniting of your opportunity to really get out there and really go after things that feel like they speak to who you are within your truth. To me, swords can be so much about the words that we're speaking, our communication, how we're showing up. So I think it's very much about that. It's almost saying this is an opportunity for you to really start speaking your truth, to showing up in your truth, to not be kind of led into things that maybe no longer resonate for who you are. So there's almost this quest for it, this desire to kind of get down to the actual bottom of certain things, and also really understanding things in a new way. And I think with the Explorer of Swords is that there's this invitation to say, what are you willing to fight for when it comes to what it is that you believe in, when it comes to your connection to how you're communicating, what's going on in your head, what sort of thoughts have been kind of leading the forefront for you right now. So there may be almost this sense of a battle of wits, a battle of the mind. Maybe you're having to overcome certain thought patterns and certain things that no longer feel aligned with what is going on with you personally. So there may be this sense of having to kind of clear or cut away certain things. The other thing that just kind of came through right now is a sense of almost like surgery. Maybe there's a medical procedure that you need to get done. Maybe there's a fear of a medical procedure that needs to be done. But also that sense of there's something that needs to be kind of cut away, something that needs to be removed in order for you to really improve, in order for you to really move into the next thing, to find some clarity, some direction, some momentum and movement. And so it almost feels like there's something that is requiring you to really get out there and out of your comfort zone and really move into the next thing with a lot more clarity. Now, the second card is going to be the Six of Cups. Now, this is a card that's kind of stating that maybe you've been too nostalgic. You've been too much, maybe you've been withdrawing. Maybe you feel like it's hard for you to connect a little bit more to your inner child or to childhood memories. Maybe there's something that is just not really coming together the way that you had anticipated, because I feel like sixes kind of bring us this level of understanding when it comes to our responsibilities and our rewards in a lot of ways. And it can be very much about that kind of choosing what it is that we want. Cups are all about emotions and feelings and our intuition. So to me, this is almost saying maybe you're feeling a little bit disconnected, disjointed from your actual intuition at the current moment because you're trying to get very clear. And sometimes intuition isn't always so black and white. Sometimes it feels very much like a little tremor of something happening, a little like a wind that just kind of like a breeze. It just comes in very gently and soft. And I think with the Six of Cups reversed, it's almost saying like maybe you're remembering certain things, but you're just not getting to the bottom of it. You're just not really feeling it the way that you're supposed to. Or maybe it's bringing up old things from the past that's also making you feel a little bit disconnected at the current moment. Now, next to that, we have the Death card, which I think that this is more of a reminder that maybe there's something that you need to let go of. Maybe there's something that you've been hanging on to that's no longer in alignment with what is going on with you. And so there is this sense of what needs to be released, what needs to be surrendered, what is it that is trying to grow in its place? What sort of rebirth is trying to happen, but we're not allowing it, or we're just not really moving with it the way that we should. The other thing with Death is that this is a major card and it's kind of smack dab in the middle of everything. So right now it may feel like there's a lot of things that are kind of dying off, things that are maybe not really growing in the direction that you thought they were going to. So there's a little bit of this maybe hesitation, or maybe just kind of questioning like what's next, or there is a fear of letting go of something, especially with the understanding that sometimes when we surrender and let go of something, it may feel like we're losing it, or we're not going to have access to it any longer, versus understanding that in order for something to transmute, it has to change what it was. And that's the big thing with Death, I feel, is that it's more of just what is trying to change, where's the transmutation, what is trying to shift. And so there may be this sense of, I'm letting go of everything, I'm surrendering as much as I can. What am I supposed to do? How is this supposed to look? How can I verify that the next thing is actually going to be more fruitful, that it is actually going to be more in alignment with me? Now, next to that, we have the Explorer of Cups, which is the emotional element of the Explorer of Swords. And so the Explorer of Cups is almost saying that there is a little bit of this sense of having to understand what we are truly feeling, what we're truly kind of seeing in our lives, what we're prioritizing in different ways, as well as being more aware of what this looks like for us in a day-to-day. Like, what is going on with our emotions? What's going on with our intuition? Where is that sense of almost like romanticizing our lives once again? Because I feel like the energy of the Knight of Cups is very much romantic and kind of like sweeping you off of your feet and kind of coming in with all of the messages and the love and this and that and the other. So I feel like maybe it's saying there's some things that need to end in order for you to kind of see things with a new like lens, to see things from a different perspective, to start to really embrace and love the things that are happening in your life a little bit more than you have, because you've been too like clear cut, so to speak, in some way. So it's been challenging for you to kind of see, what is the point? What is it that like you're going to use as your motivating force moving forward? And what is it that is going to allow you to feel a little bit more connected to what's been going on within yourself and within what it is that you want? Now, I think with the Explorer of Cups as well is that there is this kind of energy of really understanding that maybe there's some things that are coming through right now. And even with the Explorer of Swords, where it's almost saying like maybe there's been some sort of message that you've been missing because you've been too like cut off and you're just overthinking everything. And so it's making it challenging for you to really move into the next thing. And then the other thing with this is that I think with the Nine of Wands kind of underneath everything, it's almost saying like you need to take some time out to kind of rest and reconsider, to really see what is being like, what is truly happening here, and what is actually going on within your situation. Because when I think of the Nine of Wands, I think it's very much this card of like, I just want to have like that one final push. I just want to be done with this. I don't want to keep, beating a dead horse, basically. And I think with this card, it's almost saying like, well, it's great that you have so much motivation to kind of move into the next thing. Is that really in your highest good? Is that really what we need to be focusing on at the current moment? And is that really where this energy is trying to take you? Because maybe you're being a little bit impulsive and there's something that you're just not seeing quite so clearly in this energy. Because then we have the Page of Wands or the Child of Wands in this deck that is almost saying that there's some sort of a level of inexperience or something like that before you kind of get out into the world. And maybe right now you're just like, I'm just ready to go. I'm just ready to kind of hit the ground running and just do the next thing. Now, I think with these bottom cards, especially seeing that this kind of Seven of Wands card wanted to come out, is that maybe there's something that we have overlooked. Maybe there's a challenging aspect to what's happening here that maybe we're just not allowing ourselves to see quite so clearly. And I think with the Seven of Wands is that it's almost saying like we have to learn how to rise above it. The thing with sevens, I feel that I really like to kind of talk about is the spiritual lesson in each of the suits. And I think it's almost saying like, while you may be ready to go, the Wands energy is saying that it's momentum, it's movement, it's travel, it's passion, it's drive, it's that fire. The seven here is kind of saying like, yeah, that's great, but at what cost? Are you rushing into the next thing just because you want to say that you're doing it? Are you just trying to pick yourself up and dust yourself off because that's what you feel that you need to be doing at the current moment, instead of honoring that restful period that comes after the loss, that comes after the transformation? We have to understand how much energy is required for transformation, and energy expended is that needful rest. And I think with the Nine of Wands, it's someone saying like we need to kind of take that time out to kind of take care of ourselves and to rest ourselves the way that we really truly need, as well as with the Child of Wands, so that we can really refresh ourselves and kind of move into the next thing with the energy necessary and required. But we need to really start looking at what is the message here for both of us, whether it's in the higher mind, whether it's with the intuition, and really not feel so stuck in old patterns that maybe are no longer really speaking to who we are right now. It's almost like you're returning home to where you grew up, but now you've had, like some level of experience or some years in between the last time you've been there, and kind of recognizing that you don't have to fall into step with the things that you once did or the things that you were once doing. It's more of really recognizing that you can return and you can still look the same and you can still have similar experiences, but you are not the same person that you once were. And I think with these two knights, they're almost saying we have had different experiences, we have different messages, we've learned different things, and we know what we're willing to kind of put ourselves on the line for. And that is exactly what is trying to happen here. Even if it feels like not everyone is on our side or not everyone is backing us up the way that we would like to be supported in things. So I think with all of this is that right now may feel like there's not a lot of progress happening, and you may be like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to just kind of hit the ground running. I think the best thing you can do right now is honor your cycles, honor what you need, taking that time out so that you can truly rise above and really kind of go past the things that feel very conflict driven or very challenging at this time. But you need to kind of honor that you don't have to do everything by yourself, and you don't have to take everything on as yourself. And it may feel like you have a lot of inexperience as you're trying to kind of move into this next phase. But I think overall, the Child of Wands is really about inspiration. It's almost saying like, what is inspiring you? What's kind of driving you into this next thing? And how can we utilize that energy to be the spark of life in the next phase? So I hope that makes sense. As always, I really appreciate you watching. Let me know what you guys think. Take care, take it easy, and make good choices. Bye. Hello, pile number 2. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's see what we have in store as far as the messages that the cards have. Today I decided I'm just going to go ahead and use tarot cards, and everything's been shuffled, but I've been kind of feeling the sense of I want to shuffle a little bit more, so we're going to do that and see what we have with everything. I'm going to, all right, what does pile number 2 need to hear for themselves at this time? And what guidance do we have to share with them? The 2 of air, the 7 of water, the sovereignty of water. Hopefully everything is straight. I always like think I'm filming it straight, and then I look at my videos and I'm like, no. The two of water. Lots of water. Ace of fire. And the curiosity of earth. All right. And I think I'm going to pull just one more little guy just to see. The three of fire. Okay. Well, let's start off. Our very first card that we have here is going to be the two of air, which is essentially kind of stating that maybe there's a disconnect. There's something that maybe you're not seeing quite so clearly at this time. Maybe there's some options that have been put forth in front of you, but it's been challenging for you to really make the choice, to really focus on what it is that you want moving forward and how it's going to look for you overall. Now, when I think of this card, I almost feel like it's saying that there is something that you're refusing to see. And so it can feel very challenging because you may know what you need to do and you may know what it is that you need to focus on, but because it's not exactly the way that you had anticipated or giving you exactly what you thought it was going to, it can feel very much like you're being kind of pushed outside of your comfort zone. You're being kind of driven to maybe blindly go along as if you have no other choice. Now, twos are all about balance and harmony, and the suit of swords, which is air, can just talk about the mind. So this is almost saying like there's some sort of mental choice that you need to make. And this may be causing you anxiety. And for a lot of us, instead of confronting and facing certain things, we would much rather just ignore them and not see them. And I think for right now, it can feel very overwhelming because, again, we're getting another card that really talks about choices. Now, the Seven of Water or the Seven of Cups is almost saying that there's a lot of choices before you. There's some decisions that need to be made. There may be some illusions. There may be some daydreams. There's a sense of, again, kind of trying to see what is being offered, but also maybe not really knowing and understanding everything that is being offered to you at the current moment. So it can feel a little bit challenging as far as like which way to move forward, because with the Seven of Cups is essentially, it can just say that, yeah, there's a lot of options before you, but that doesn't mean that every option is good. Some options may be something that requires a lot of transformation. Some will be like the poison that becomes the medicine, and others may feel like you're being kind of caught in a web, so to speak, of other people's options, choices, decisions, or other things that may kind of come up as an obstacle on your path. And that's the thing with the Seven of Cups is, again, the number 7 to me in all of the tarot, it can be a very spiritual number. It can talk about intuition and connection and spiritual lessons. But spiritual lessons aren't always easy. And I think with this, almost saying like there's a lot of anxiety about having to make a decision, and now you're seeing that you're being presented by a lot of different options, it can just feel like it's challenging for you to really trust and to really move into the energy of really seeing clearly what it is that you want. Or maybe you haven't really chosen how you feel about stuff, or how you want things to be for you moving forward. And I think with the Seven of Cups or the Seven of Water here is that maybe it's a reminder to learn how to tune back into your intuition, to tune back into what you want, what you need, and what's going on for you. Now, I think moving right along, we have the sovereignty of water, which is basically the King of Cups. And with this card, I feel like there's a little bit of this misunderstanding that there is this like forcefulness that tends to come with the kings. And I don't like to look at them that way. I like to look at it as essentially this is a reminder that it's power. It's power manifested through wisdom, through understanding all of the lessons that the suit has gone through. And I think with the King of Cups, or the sovereignty of water, is that it's almost saying like you need to kind of step back into how do you actually feel about stuff? What is your foundation? What have you kind of built up to this point? What have you been working on? And really understanding that there can be a different level of maturity with how you feel about maybe lessons that you're circling back on, or some of the choices and options that are being presented to you. And that's something that happens as we mature, as we grow. We start to see things differently. We start to kind of trust ourselves a little bit more and making more informed decisions. And I feel like the King of Cups here is really saying, let's make an informed decision. Let's really choose for ourselves what it is that we really truly want moving forward and what actually is valuable to us. Now, this can also be a reminder that maybe you need to seek out some sort of fatherly advice, or someone that you look at as a mature, emotionally stable person in your life. It doesn't always have to be a man. Maybe someone that represents this kind of energy to you that you know is going to give you good advice. It's going to show up with you and say, okay, this is what you should do, or this is what I would do if I was in your position, especially because it seems like there's all of these choices and all of these things that make it a little bit harder for you to figure out which one should I go with. Should I go for the one that feels more stable, more mature, that feels a little bit more stabilizing for me, that feels more like a foundation, something that feels more nurturing for me long term, which I think that's what this card is kind of saying is, what is nurturing you? What's stabilizing you? What is kind of watering you at this time? And in that, we have the Two of Water, which again, this can be a card of like love really coming into your life in so many different ways. It doesn't need to be romantic. It can be friendships. It can be siblings. It can be family. It can just be a union of sorts, a coming together in the sense of really understanding the people that are coming into your life and attracting that sort of energy for yourself. Now, for a lot of us, we tend to feel that our intimate partners are going to be the most significant relationships we have. And I think we tend to forget that a lot of the relationships and connections that we have around us can also be something that is worthy of us having a sense of union and our heart being fulfilled in some way, shape, or form, also within those relationships and connections. And I think the Two of Cups is almost saying, again, we're giving you a choice to really align yourself with things that like you really, really want, and feeling very supported in those choices. And I think that this is showing up not so much as like, oh, someone's going to come into your life and it's going to be all love and whatever. I think it's more of just saying you will have an opportunity to feel much more supported and grounded because you're choosing things that are more stabilizing and emotionally connected to what you want and who you are, instead of being dysregulated by too many options, or trying not to make an option or make a choice, because again, not choosing is still choosing, whether we like to look at it that way or not. And so to me, it's almost saying like there's a lot of ways for you to kind of lean into understanding, or maybe this is a call to kind of know that you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to kind of board this next phase by yourself. Maybe you need to find someone around you that is going to show up and be supportive with you at this time, and that can show you what it is that you may need currently. Now, underneath it, to kind of support this energy, we have the Ace of Fire, which can just be very much a card of like new vitality, things really opening up, new doors kind of presenting themselves to you, opportunities, momentum, drive. This is also a card to me that kind of says like the initiation of wanting to kind of get out of like the zone that you've been in. And I think that this is almost stating that maybe this is an opportunity for you to kind of go after something else. So if you're someone that maybe has been struggling with the job that you currently have, maybe because you're like, I feel emotionally drawn to the work that I'm doing, but I'm kind of struggling because there's a lot of things that maybe I didn't see, or maybe it wasn't like the best choice for me at this time. This may be an invitation saying there may be something that's being extended to you at this time, but you may have to kind of change the pace that you've been moving at. And it may not always feel very comfortable, as we have to kind of readjust for this next phase or readjust for the change in our journey. Now, finally, as kind of another supporting thing here is that we have the curiosity of Earth, which this is the Page of Pentacles. And this is a card of inexperience, of like the apprentice that's like showing up to the job and doesn't really know what's really going on. So there's this curiosity, this childlike kind of wonder, this not immaturity, like someone who hasn't experienced life, but maybe immaturity in the sense of there's some sort of inexperience that is there that makes it seem like they don't always know exactly how to move or what comes next. And I think with these two cards is that maybe there is this part that is saying, hey, you need to kind of transfer this energy and do something else, kind of move out of this thing and do something different, because right now, the way that things have been going is that you haven't really been letting yourself move into things that feel more connected for you. And in that, it's making it hard for you to feel emotionally grounded and stable in the next choice. So right now, maybe you're wanting to find other people to kind of make the choice for you, or maybe you want someone else to kind of show up and say, this is what I would do if I was in your shoes. But this is almost saying like, you need to find the spark for yourself. You need to kind of revitalize yourself and kind of go out there with that sense of I get to choose. I get to kind of do what I need to do next. And in that, even if I don't always know exactly how it's going to look or how long I'll be there, this is still going to be something that is of benefit for me, that will allow me to kind of move into the next thing. So I think the way that you can really support yourself, as we have this extra card off to the side, is by just exploring, getting out into the world. It's not so much about strategizing and planning and having everything figured out. I think like the Three of Wands is very much this invitation and saying, okay, we need to kind of get out there. We need to kind of see, we need to stop waiting for things to kind of come to us. What are we doing to kind of go after things? So, personal example here for me, it's like I've been thinking about changing the job that I'm doing, but I haven't really been looking for another job. So it makes it challenging for something else to change, for a new door to open, and for me to kind of get out of where I'm at if I'm not making any sort of strategizing or planning or choosing what it is that I want for my next thing. So the Three of Fire is kind of here as an invitation to get out of this current phase of waiting for something to come to you. This is a card that says you have to get out there and choose for yourself. And that is when you'll start to see a lot of the shifts and the changes. So I think with this, it's almost saying that maybe there's something that I'm not saying that you're willingly trying to kind of blind yourself to. I think that maybe it's hard to really allow yourself to think of things being different or change what you've been doing, because maybe you feel like, oh, maybe I'm still very new at it, or maybe I don't have all of the information, or I was very like excited about it and I don't want to just like let it go because maybe there's some sort of like connection to the work that I'm doing, or connection to what it is that this relationship is bringing to me at this current moment. But I do think that these two cards are kind of saying like, it's time, like you're just not seeing things quite so clearly. And in order for you to kind of move into this next phase, you need to kind of take those opportunities. You need to kind of get out there with arms wide open, basically, and say, okay, this is what I need. This is what I want. And I'm going to get out there and do it. So I hope that made sense. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, please take care, stay safe, and I appreciate you. Bye. Hello, beautiful friends. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be the reading for pile number 3. So let's see what these cards have to say for you and what messages are in store at this time. Now, I already had everything shuffled, but I kind of been feeling like an extra shuffle is needed. So let's focus on what pile number 3 needs to hear and what would best suit what pile number 3 needs at this time. And y'all can watch me struggle to shuffle here. All right. I think we're good. All right. Here we go. The Two of Emotions. Sorry, I was readjusting my microphone. So the Four of Emotions. Lots of watery cups. We have the World Cosmos reversed and the Ace of Emotions reversed. Lots of emotions going on. All right, is everyone feeling it? I feel like today has been a lot. So the Two of Inspiration and the Seven of Voices reversed. And here we do a Three of Emotions reversed. I think I actually pulled this card earlier this week for everybody. All right. You have everything. I feel like this doesn't need to be reversed. So we're going to put, that's fine. We have 2, 3, and 4. All right. So let's start. So pile number 3. Here we have the Two of Emotions. Now, this is a card that can just talk about union, coming together, choice, like choosing the next part of what we want and need within the relationships, connections, intuition, emotions that we feel and that we have going on for us. So because twos have this sense of balance and harmony, they also allude to the opportunity to understand that we have a choice. We have a choice as to who we want around us and how we want them to show up for us. And I think with the Two of Emotions is that maybe it's a reminder for you that it's okay for you to feel what you have going on, to really understand what is going on with you at this point in time, and to start choosing more of that energy as you kind of move into the next thing. Now, overall, I would look at it as it can feel a little confusing whenever you're trying to figure out what it is that you want, how that looks, how those relationships are going to show up for you, and also how you are being supported in that. And I think because we have the Four of Emotions right next to it, is that maybe there's a sense of discontent. There's a sense of disconnection, not really feeling supported. There's a lack of stability. Maybe you're focusing too much on the things that you no longer have, or the things that are no longer in alignment with you, versus really looking at what that's being replaced with. And I know for a lot of us, whenever we don't have something, we can be very focused on, oh, I don't have that anymore, but I'm not going to pay attention to what comes with the thing being removed, or the thing shifting, or the thing changing. And I think with the Two of Emotions kind of backing it up first, it's almost saying that maybe you feel like, oh, this is what I want, this is what I need, I have a lot of emotions about it. It feels like this is exactly how I want things to move forward for me. And then the Four of Emotions is kind of here saying, okay, but you're still not seeing what is also being presented to you when something is being removed or when something is being lost. You're too stuck on the things that maybe you thought were going to be. You're maybe focusing a little too heavily on what hasn't worked out instead of the what can actually happen now that is no longer working out at this point in time. So I feel like these two cards are kind of saying like there's a little bit of like a push and pull between everything you want and everything that you've experienced. And I think maybe that's why we have the World card upside down, because it may feel like it's hard for you to embrace this next thing. It's hard for you to really open yourself up to the possibility that your world can and will look very, very different, especially whenever we have been planning for it to look a certain way, or we have been expecting it to look a certain way. And I think with the World Cosmos card upside down or reversed, I think it's almost an invitation to kind of look at what expectations were we placing upon our situations, our relationships, our feelings, our intuition, and that maybe aren't really working out the way that we thought they were going to. Now, when I think of the World card, I feel like it's very much a card that's saying like you need to embrace yourself, you need to kind of open yourself up to the possibilities that things are not always going to look how you think they're going to. And then also understanding that you're still being given something here, and it's essentially the last card of the major cards. So it's almost saying like, hey, what have you learned? What sort of spiritual lessons are coming down onto you because of everything that you've experienced? And I think looking at the first two cards is that maybe it's saying like this is an opportunity for you to start looking at, were you trusting your intuition? Were you following through on your feelings? Were you looking at who is supporting you? What sort of relationships are around you? Or have you been holding back and not allowing yourself to really look at what you haven't really been embracing? Or have you been wanting to embrace things a certain way and then coming to the realization that maybe that's not always the most beneficial for you, or that's not always going to be the best answer at this time? Now, next to that, we have the Ace of Emotions. Again, lots of emotions with these. The Ace of Emotions reverse. And so again, there may be a feeling of love not really going where it needs to. I like to look at this card as a card that says like, love is beginning. This is the opportunity. These are the doors opening. These are new relationships that are starting and things like that. But there's not a ton of follow through yet to kind of encourage you to do what you need to do. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because my kid is trying to grab stuff and trying to be quiet. But it is very much this energy that someone's saying like, what are you blocking? What's not really working? What has been held back right now? And what is it that you really need to understand in order for these things to start moving again? Maybe you've kind of closed off your heart. Maybe you've been feeling like it's not okay for you to have some emotions. And so it has made it challenging because maybe you felt like, oh, I had all my emotions in this thing and this is what I chose. And I was like pouring myself into it. And then it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to. And so now I feel like my world is being kind of flipped upside down on me. And so now I'm hesitant to open myself up to the possibility that I do have a choice and I do get to kind of say, okay, I'm going to follow through on this thing, or I'm going to change how I feel about certain things. And so there is a little bit of this sense of maybe having to honor all of the things that you're feeling and how you are feeling them. Now, underneath it, to kind of support some of these energies, we have the Two of Inspiration, which is a card of strategy and planning and having to be a little bit more mindful of what we are choosing for ourselves. So while the Two of Emotions may be like choosing partnerships and romantic kind of feelings or emotions and friendships and connections and things like that, the Two of Inspiration is kind of saying like, what is driving us? What are we choosing for ourselves that is creative? That's kind of the fire. That's kind of allowing us to connect a little bit more to what we want, what we need, and how that's showing up in our lives. Now, when I think of the Two of Inspiration, I think it's very much this card that's kind of saying like, okay, we have the vitality, we have the momentum. What are we doing with those two things? How can we bring a little bit more stability to this kind of energy to kind of plan ahead? So just like this little imagery on this card where it's like we see this figure and she's got her little telescope. She's like she's looking long distance. It's almost saying like, what plans do you have for the future? And while we can't plan for everything, it is nice to have some sort of a sense of direction or momentum and movement in order for us to really see where this energy is trying to carry us, especially if we've been kind of blocking our emotional selves and not really embracing the things that are being presented to us. This is an opportunity for us to say, okay, things maybe didn't work out the way that I thought they were going to, but what do I need to do in order for me to feel a sense of drive, of momentum and movement again? And I think this is kind of perfect energy now that we're kind of moving out of the Mercury retrograde shadow period, even if it's not moving into like all of the planets being direct. It is kind of giving us a sense of like the mind can kind of plan, we can kind of strategize, we can kind of figure out what it is that we want so we can deal with the emotional kind of elements that have come up because of the shifts and the changes that have arisen at this time. Now, finally, we have the Seven of Voices reversed. So I think that this is almost saying that maybe there's some sense of like not being quite so honest with yourself, because this card usually talks about like a sense of sneakiness, a sense of secrets, a sense of like not really seeing things quite so clearly, not being very clear-headed. Maybe someone is not being quite so honest with you. But I think with this being reversed, it's almost saying maybe you haven't been honest with yourself. And so that's why it's challenging for you to kind of see what is trying to happen for you at this time, because you're too stuck on old patterns, or you're too stuck on the woulda, coulda, shoulda sort of energy. And I think that this is almost saying like you can't really disrupt yourself, and you can't really keep yourself out of sync with yourself, because that's not really going to help this next phase. It's not really going to inform you into the next thing or give you enough of like a push to say, okay, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is how I want it to look. I think that the Seven of Voices or the Seven of Swords reversed, it's almost saying that it's time to kind of put that down and come back to an understanding of what is the actual truth of the situation, instead of trying to like gaslight yourself or feel like you have to convince yourself that no, I'm not that upset about things, or I'm over it, or whatever it may be. I think that with all these emotional cards, it's almost saying you need to process all of your emotions. You need to kind of deal with everything that you're seeing right now. And finally, just as a reminder, we have the Three of Emotions, which is almost saying that there's something here where it's saying you need to kind of come together. You need to find your community. You need to reach out to the people that support you and love you and celebrate with them. When is the last time you just kind of had a little bit of fun and enjoyed yourself? Especially if you've been so caught up in like all these other things, that may be a plan of your inspiration. That may be a part of you strategizing towards what it is that you want in the future, but then also inviting what you want now and connecting a little bit more to this energy of learning to trust your emotions again and not being so discontent or feeling like, oh, I was bamboozled by this other thing. And now it's almost saying like, it's okay, because we're moving out of this energy. We're trying to kind of move forward. We're trying to see what really is trying to happen here for us. And I think with the Three of Emotions, it's very much this energy of connecting back to yourself, connecting back to the people that love you, that support you, that see you, and getting more aligned with that sort of energy so that you can really truly move forward. So overall, it just seems like there's a lot of things that you need to kind of give yourself permission to feel and really start processing, kind of looking at why you're carrying so much of this energy that is not really allowing you to plan strategically for the future and to not feel like you have to cut yourself off from certain things and make yourself feel like you don't have a right to feel those things, because that's not what this reading's about. It's almost saying like, okay, valid, but what are you doing for it? Like, what do we need to embrace? What do we need to do? How can we transmute this energy into something that is supportive for us? So I hope that makes sense. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me, Pile 3. As always, take care, stay safe, and make good choices. Bye.